Tonight on Closeup, Christchurch Mayor Bob Parker fronts up to furious residents about the state of his city's council. Plus, how's John Key planning to fix our social welfare woes? And Billy Ocean's got a brand new groove.
My name is Billy. You might think that I'm silly, but really it's alright if you watch me a close-up tonight.
Close-Up, brought to you by the Kia Optima. Pure design. Kia.
His $68,000 pay rise before Christmas divided the council and incensed quake-hit Cantabrians, and this controversy shows no sign of letting up. Christchurch City Council CEO Tony Marryatt is now facing calls for his head. The mayor's under attack, the local government minister is stepping in, and there are plans to stage a major protest at the council buildings next week. It looks a mess. Shortly, the mayor fronts up to one of his harshest critics. But first, Abby Scott takes us through the Marryatt saga.
Thank you very much for joining us, Canterbury. I'm Mike Yardley, and it's time you had your say. The Tony Marryatt inferno.
It was the council that started the problem off, was giving him this pay rise.
It's like a mafia outfit. He's got his front man to do the talking.
This is citizens' money, and you don't just throw it around.
5 weeks ago, this man was given a $68,000 pay rise, and the talkback lines are still burning.
How does the council work?
An incredible sense of disgust, dismay and disbelief.
I'm asking you to consider the issue.
Chief Executive of Christchurch City Council since 2007, Tony Marryatt's had a 30-year career in public service, but has largely been a behind-the-scenes figure until a rise in his salary thrust him into the spotlight. In December, the council gave him a 14% pay increase, his first in 2 years. At the time, supporters said it brought him into line with other public executives, and his performance justified it.
He needs to be fairly remunerated. He needs to work very, very hard for the people of this city. He is the right man for the job.
It took his pay packet to nearly $540,000. The decision split the council, 7-4, 5 against.
The score that Tony Marryatt got was one of the highest scores of any local government CEO in the history of the country for a performance review. So you can't argue with that.
I wasn't happy that the pay rise was treated in isolation from the rest of the community, so without the wider social and economic context.
Others question Mr Marryatt's credibility. Tim Carter, whose family has extensive business interests in the city, has even taken his concerns about conflicts of interest all the way to the Auditor General.
Particularly with regard to contracts being issued to favoured consultants of high value with no tendering, the splitting of contracts so they're under Tony's delegated authority.
His public image took a hit. Firstly, following revelations the Hamilton-based CEO found time for golf on 2 separate weekends in the months following the February quake, and again when he remained holidaying in the Gold Coast after the December 23rd quakes. In the east of the city, the earthquake was most destructive. But just how damaging has news of Tony Marryatt's pay rise been here with ratepayers?
I never heard of it before until they give him this money.
I think all the hard work's done by the labourers out there, not him sitting at a desk pushing a pencil.
Seems to have a lot of time to play golf, going to Aussie.
And is the feeling the same here in the West, where post-quake life is a little closer to normal?
I don't think there's enough information that's been made available to the public about whether he is or isn't doing a good job. We don't know.
A lot of people are doing voluntary work, you know, to help people, and he gets a pay rise and they get nothing.
Oh, if he's due for it, that's okay.
The issues dominated local headlines, with accusations a small group of councillors and powerful business people want the play-by-the-book CEO gone.
If there's a set of rules, he will play by those rules. He won't bend them for anyone, which makes an even playing field for some panel beater that lives across the eastern suburbs that wants to get ahead in life, won't get outplayed by a rich guy who can buy his way through life.
How much of your sort of anti-Tony sentiment is to do with you representing the ratepayers, and how much is to do with you representing the business community?
Business community are ratepayers also. It's representing the whole community.
Confidence is ebbing in Mr Marryatt. Only last week, Mayor Bob Parker admitted criticism of the Chief Executive was justified.
It's actually a new time. We need new skills in the job.
His future and the entire council's future now hangs in the balance.
Well, I'm joined now live from Christchurch by City Mayor Bob Parker and the Reverend Mike Coleman from the wider Earthquake Communities Action Network. Bob Parker, is your CEO going to hang on to that pay rise?
Well, he's, in our view, earned the pay rise and he's at a market rate, and really it's going to be in his hands now because the pay rise has been awarded to him. But he did send an interesting message today, and I think it's one that I hope all of the councillors are listening to. And what he is suggesting is that the problems that we have around our council table are actually at the point where they are going to begin to slow and disrupt the very important rebuild of Christchurch City. And we need a working environment where councillors can trust each other and where the staff of this organisation and the chief executive of this organisation aren't publicly criticised by the very people who employ you. In other words, trust amongst the councillors has been seriously damaged, and as the Prime Minister, I think, quite rightly said today, in the last few weeks this council has become dysfunctional. Mr Marryatt, I think, is willing to compromise on that issue around the salary, but I think what he needs to see, and what we all need to see in the city, is a council that's actually prepared to do its job, and to actually play by the rules, to treat each other fairly and get on with the work, the very important work that's in front of us at the moment.
Mike Coleman, is that fair?
Well, if you look at what has happened here so far, you can see the outrage that has happened right across the city. But this is a lot more than just a city upset with this decision. When Tony Marryatt came back from the Gold Coast, he was clearly arrogant and fighting for his pay rise. And he explained quite clearly that he believed he deserved this pay rise. And he seems to have no understanding of what's really going on across the city. He doesn't realise that people are out of their homes and still paying rates towards his own pay rise. People are battling liquefaction. He didn't go back to his home and battle no power or sewage or water for months on end. He was able to go home back to Hamilton and play golf there. People were outraged by the arrogance that was shown by Tony Marryatt over him battling for his pay rise, and him sitting in the Gold Coast while we were battling with earthquakes here, significant earthquakes, and him refusing to come home, made us realise that Tony Marryatt does not have a heart for Canterbury. That's why people are outraged, and that's why people are angry right across the city. But look, this is a lot more than just Tony Marryatt's remuneration. This shows that there is a dysfunction throughout this council that needs to be addressed.
Bob Parker, look, putting aside whether he merited the pay rise or not, common sense would tell you it was political suicide to do that in that environment when people are out of homes. You used to have a deft touch for handling this. Have you lost your touch, Bob Parker?
Well, you could make that fair criticism, but I think you've got to cast the net a little bit wider. First of all, it was a majority decision of council, and it was based on some very good external advice. And it's very important for us at this time to retain our chief executive and to retain the executive structure of this organisation. Many of those people are people that he has ensured he's recruited through a proper process, and they are actually working for him. There's a lot of loyalty. So you could rip the heart out of this organisation at this time in the middle of a rebuild by removing a figure like that. So that's the first thing we have to think about.
But the government may do that,
and then we have to be a fair employer.
Yeah, the government, Smith may come down tomorrow and say, listen, if you guys can't work, this is too important, we're going to get rid of the lot of you.
Well, I don't think he can get rid of the chief executive. I'm sorry, I thought that was the question you're asking, and I don't think that is very technically or legally possible at all. But you're right, he could step in and he could put commissioners in to replace the councillors, and that would be the end of democracy in the city. We don't have Environment Canterbury with democratic representatives, and I don't think he wants to do that. I don't think the government would want to do that, and nor do I. I want my council to actually stop going around the processes that we need, breaking the trust that is essential for us to work effectively and well, and get down to the work that's at hand. And this is a very crucial time for our city. We really have the biggest decisions of our lives and careers ahead of us in the coming months.
No one's doubting
this sort of stuff.
Bob Parker, no one's doubting
is destructive.
No one is doubting how serious it is. Mike Coleman, you want the council gone. I mean, you want Bob Parker gone. You want the CEO gone. That's a coup, isn't it?
Well, we don't have democracy at the moment, Mark. The decisions, this latest decisions around the communications review was told to our elected councillors 20 minutes before they announced it to the media. Councillors are waking up, looking in the press and finding out what's going on in the council. Sally Buck said she knew nothing about the burial plots saga. With even the remuneration issue, councillors were handed the information around the pay rise as they were heading in to the council chambers. Look, we don't have democracy at the moment. Bob Parker and Tony Marryatt run the show, and they tell the elected councillors what's going to happen. And this is exactly what happened in Hamilton. The former mayor of Hamilton, David Braithwaite, said Tony Marryatt creates an environment of fear and bullying. And that's exactly what's happening in our council now. And he's got Bob Parker working with him, clearly, and the other who basically... Sorry.
Okay, look, just briefly before we go, Bob Parker, will you still be mayor? Will your CEO still be in the job next week?
Well, I don't intend to leave, and Mr. Marryatt, I'm afraid, has got a job and he's got a salary, but he's prepared to look at this council. If this council can get its act together, if those councillors that are continuously leaking and undermine the process are prepared to do their job, then I'm pretty sure he'll have a look at that other issue. He is passionate about the work that he does. He cares about the people of the city.
Sorry, Bob Parker, is it the CEO's job to decide whether the council are up to it or not? It seems a bit about face.
Well, I think this council sits on the brink of, a cliff in a sense. If we can't work together cohesively and cooperatively and with ethics, I don't think that the city or we deserve to have the job. So
and that is something, of course, Nick Smith
tomorrow to find a way to work forward.
Exactly. Nick Smith is down there tomorrow.
Yep, I've invited Nick to come down and.
Okay.
Yep.
And we'll hear what happens after that. Bob Parker, Mike Coleman. We appreciate both your time tonight. Coming up, John King on the state of our nation and what's got Billy Ocean still going strong after all these years.